Hey, what's up everybody? BDO 44 coming at you in another video. Alright, so let's see, what basketball stuff do I want to talk about? So the combine, from what I understand, is going well. Tankathon finally updated their measurements and different rankings and stuff like that. For the first time, they were able to put in some new information in like a month. And so I don't know what it is with the valley and people with loud cars that don't move very fast, but there's a lot of that going on around here. The thing wasn't going very fast at all. Anyway, so some of the guys, obviously, guys like Jefferson and just a few other guys in this draft that are not really expected to measure very well with some of the testing and stuff like that. They're not athletic players. So, you know, Ade Mara, from what I understand, didn't really test all that great. LeBaron Philon actually kind of surprised us. He didn't measure, but he didn't test very well in some of the agility stuff. From what I understand, Morris Johnson had a really good day. A few other guys come to mind. I'm trying to think of this one particular player. His name is not coming to mind, but he went to Santa Clara. I can't think of the man's name. But from what I understand, he didn't measure that well, but he's not very athletic to begin with. So to be honest with you, some of the stuff that I just kind of presumed as it pertains to guys not being very athletic so as to not expect them to test well, kind of just along the lines of what I found after the tests and all this stuff with the combine is now taking place. I expect some of these guys, like guys that I thought were unathletic, they are. But that doesn't mean they can't ball. They may not be able to, you know, knock it out of the park with an agility test, but you get them on the 4 in a 5-on-5 situation, they're going to be extremely productive, and they're going to win. And so that's the story there. I think we can get lost with the measurements and the athleticism stuff and the testing stuff. There's a lot that goes into that. Some guys aren't going to test well because they drank last night. Maybe that's a testament to their not being mature or their character or whatever, but it may not necessarily mean that when they are prepared, they can't test well. They just didn't have a good night. Maybe they didn't sleep well, whatever. That kind of thing can really affect those types of things, I'd imagine. So I only put but so much stock into combine testing and stuff like that. Guys shooting well, a lot of that stuff can be determined by a lot of different factors that don't have anything to do with whether or not they're going to perform on the basketball floor. So, you know, I just, like for example, there's a guy, Koa Pete, from what I understand, he changed his shooting style right before the combine. And so I guess he's trying to debut his new shooting style, and it kind of scared some people off. I don't think that's that smart, to be honest with you. If you want to change your style, but don't show us the form that you're working on. It's going to look funky, and if it doesn't fall, it's going to look like a failure. So I don't know who told him that was a good idea, but it wasn't. But like some stuff is just like obvious in the homework that I've done. Like Baba Miller, for example, I was listening to some people who were reviewing the winners and losers in the combine. They said Baba Miller is somebody they need to go back and look at film on because he really measured well and did well in some of the different stuff and jumped really high and arms are longer than they thought. And it's like, well, the thing about Baba is he has all the tools that should excite NBA people. But some of the issues that he has on 5-on-5 situations has been the story. It's not a question of whether or not he's going to measure well. It's whether he's going to perform well. And, you know, we've gotten lost at times trusting these measurements and being all excited about stuff in that regard when we've already been shown that guys don't perform all that great. But we're like, man, but look at the tools. It's like, yeah, but he can't really, you know, he may not be able to perform under the bright lights. So where do they measure that at? Like, these are the type of things that I just say, I think they start galaxy braining these things, especially in the modern era where we're trying to find the next guy, the next whoever. We start saying, oh, he looks like this guy. And I listen to these basketball guys, a lot of times, the way they equate to whether or not a guy is going to fit on the team is if he looks like somebody else who's on the team. Well, you know, I like this guy on this team because he reminds me of Kyrie. Well, yeah, this guy here, Dallas, should take him because he's like a Kyrie. It's like, what? Why are we looking for another version of what we already have if we're Dallas? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And so that's just a lot of what it is that I see. Well, I can't envision him because when I start thinking about who he is, I can't see anybody. So I just don't know where he's going to fit on the floor because I can't think of somebody else that he would otherwise be able to mimic. It's like, I don't think like that. I'm sorry, guys. My brain doesn't do that. It just doesn't. Because what ends up happening is you get that player on the floor. He does what you've never seen done before. And now you're looking for somebody else who reminds you of him. And then you're shunning that person because he's not the greatest version of him, or bringing that person in because you think he's going to be the next him. It's just like, man, that stuff doesn't work. I'm not of that mindset. That's not how I operate. I pride myself on being a creative mind, so I can see a guy being the first so-and-so in a lot of cases. And so that's just really how I look at it. I don't subscribe to that. I really don't. But a lot of the people who do this thing, that's kind of how they look at it. That's the scope from which they look at basketball talent. Do you remind me of so-and-so? Yes. Then obviously this is going to work because so-and-so worked. You're him. No, you're not him. He's not him. But yeah, man. Listening to Tebow talk about my Lakers and what things look like for us. They still have us taking with Tankathon Evans, the shooter out of Duke. And I think he'd be a hell of a piece for the Lakers. But I don't see myself thinking very high about taking him at 25. Just being honest. Because he only shoots the ball. He's an average defender. He unfortunately didn't measure well in some of the agility stuff. He didn't have a great night last night or whatever it may have been. So he didn't run as fast or jump as high as you would expect that he would. Conditioning has a lot to do with a lot of that. He's shown me enough in the tape to know he can drive at the rim and dunk the ball repeatedly. So just got to get him in shape, and we got to task him with taking care of his body. All of that stuff is important for any prospect, right? My problem is with Evans specifically at 25 is if all you're going to do at a very, very high level is shoot the three, then bringing you to my situation means that I have to be able to have other people that can do a lot of other things. And based on what it is my team is constructed to be right now, I really don't have that. I need you to have more responsibilities as a wing. I need you to have more responsibilities rebounding the ball. I need you to put maybe more pressure on the rim than maybe you want to. When I look at your stat sheet and I see, and this is just an example, not his exact stats, 15 points, all 3-point shots attempted, 1 rebound, 3 assists, no steals, no blocks. It becomes a conversation of, yes, you're elite at your shooting skill, and I like shooting as much as the next guy. And if you can really help us with the gravity that you provide by making defenses hang on to you instead of hanging on to Luka, that's an answer for a problem that I have. But who's going to answer the rest of my problems? How can I get everything else that I need so that you can be a part of a winning team? Because if I don't have those things in place, we're not going to win. And if I'm using my only pick, my only number one first round pick rather, on you, then I'm probably going to go without finding solutions for a lot of the problems. I need more versatile talent on my bench. Could I use a shooter like Evans? Of course. But is that the primary thing I should be addressing in my draft if I'm the Lakers? I don't think so. I'm pretty damn certain the answer is no there. Now, it depends on how things shake out. But there's other players on that board, even within the confines of that I think I might like a little more than Evans, if I'm being honest with you. If I want to go for a scoring guard in that range, I think Malik Thomas is somebody I like a little more than Evans. I don't think Malik Thomas is the knockdown shooter Evans is, but I think Malik Thomas is going to do a bit more. He's going to score from all 3 levels. He puts more pressure on the rim. He's more of a fluid passer, a little bit more of a fluid passer. I don't think he's much of a passer himself, but I just look at him as a more toolsy, toolsy might not be the word, but he has more of a bag, as they like to say. He has a little more stronger dribble packages. I expect for him to pull up from different spots than maybe Evans. I'm not expecting him to do. Evans is just going to hover around the 3-point line and create a lot of problems and be a deadly shooter with a lot of heart and a lot of a lot of personality. That's fun. I like that piece. I want that piece, but I need other stuff. And so I want you to be able to do a little more than that and be able to account for a little more responsibly in your stats than that for me to feel confident that I'm using my only first round pick over the next 4 years on you. And then there's a conversation about the dude from Santa Clara whose name Graves. That's who it is. I should know Graves. My niece's last name is Graves. But anyway, I don't know if they're related or not. Probably not. But Graves, I really like Graves. If y'all look at the video I made on Graves, I'm a Graves guy. I think he can do a bunch of stuff that can help a lot of teams. My issue with Graves and the Laker fit is that Graves is not very athletic, and he tested in the combine very poorly in those exact areas, so no surprise for me. If I'm bringing Graves to an already unathletic situation, expect for him to be the starting 3 next to Luka and Austin, we're going to have one of the most unathletic teams in basketball. Now, we're going to be good at a lot of things, but when it comes down to going up against the athletes that are in this league, the DeBonstas and the VJ Edgecombs and the Shaden Sharps, I expect for them to run past my guy. They're not going to be able to stay in front of those people at all. So it becomes a conversation of, are we not too unathletic to really compete with what could be potentially coming at us with teams like Utah, who, you know, got all types of athletes and shot blockers and all this and that. You don't have enough athleticism. You may be good with basketball, and if you have unathletic teams, you can really run them out the gym. And you're going to be able to win some games against athletes too, especially ones with not high IQ. But when it comes down to it, you're going to be at a deficiency in fast break situations and things like that. Graves is a pretty good defender. He's a pretty big body, got long arms, but he's not athletic. So he's going to get ran past in certain situations, and you got to have the athletes on the team around him to represent that. So that his lack of athleticism isn't compounding a problem that's already in place. And so that's when it becomes a difficulty, because me, in a nutshell, would love to take Graves at 25. I think that's great value, right? But as I often say about my Lakers, who are we when we bring certain things to us? And are we best for having those things? And are those things best for being a part of what we are? If we add ourselves a bunch of athletes, and yeah, add Graves to the situation, I can't wait to see what he can do in a Laker uniform. If we are not, and we're going forward with Austin and Luka, Graves is the last person in this draft I need playing the 3. Starting, playing 40 minutes a game. You got 3 unathletic people in your most important speed spots. You know, some of your most important athletic spots are filled with people with my type of athleticism or worse. That is bad. That's very bad. So it becomes a situation where I look at a guy like Jefferson. Jefferson's like Graves in a different position. Jefferson's more of a 4, but he's kind of Graves. Not athletic, excellent passer, good defender, staying under the rim, not dunking the ball too much, can drive a little bit. You can put the ball in his hands, but he's not overly wiggly with the ball in his hands. He's not overly baggy, so to speak, as they say. So, you know, it becomes a situation where, like, yeah, your basketball IQ is through the roof. I'm a believer in basketball IQ. Give me Graves and Jefferson in most situations. But for the Lakers situation, where we're moving without athleticism in our backcourt, we need that 3 to be able to maneuver in ways that Luka and Austin are not going to be able to. So what I end up finding out is that in our range, based on being respectful of what it is that we are, I'm potentially leaving 2 of my favorite players in the range on the board so that I can bring to myself what's best for this unit. And this is a frustrating thing for me as a Laker fan. Very frustrating, especially as somebody who believes in basketball IQ. But some of the better IQ basketball players at the forward position happen to have no athleticism in their body whatsoever in our range. So what am I like? And then you start looking at the rest of the wings in this draft. Some of the better ones pulled out of the draft. There's not a lot of wings in the draft. You got bigs and you got smalls. But the wings, there's only like a few of them, and you expect them to go in the lottery. A guy like Cameron Carr, I don't expect for him to go past 15 in this draft. Probably on the higher end of 10 to 15. Because he's the only player in this class like him. A 2 guard at like 6'7" with like a 7'2" wingspan who specializes in blocking shots at the 2 guard spot. I wouldn't be surprised if the Clippers take him at 5. If I'm being completely honest with you, might not be the worst idea in the grand scheme of things, considering the position of need. I wouldn't be surprised if Brooklyn took him at 6. And he's expected to go somewhere at 17, maybe even fall all the way to 25. But I don't think it's reasonable to even expect the car's going to fall to 25 because he's the only one in the class like him. You know, the other really good wing in that range is Dalen Swain. Swain can't shoot worth the crap. he is an absolute nuisance off the ball. His jump shot worse than Pete's. So it becomes a conversation of, if you have a bunch of playmakers like we do, Dalen Swain could be your wing with athleticism, but now all of a sudden he's a defensive liability. You might as well just bring back Vanderbilt if you're going to do that. It's like, so I'm telling you, like as a Laker fan, I kind of want to move up. I need to get in the range of like 15 so that I can secure Carr, Morris Johnson, one of the bigs that I want, Mara, Quaintance. I've grown greatly on Quaintance for the Lakers. Not Quaintance for most situations, but Quaintance for the Lakers. The big, that with the huge hands, the ridiculous long arms, the shot blocking prowess, the ability to guard multiple positions. I think the Lakers should want Quaintance more than probably anyone else in the league. And this is somebody that I'm very low on because of his athleticism, his free throw shooting deficiencies, which I have to amend to say that it was in such a small sample size because he got hurt that year to where they probably shouldn't even be showing us his free throw percentage from that because it was only like 5 games. So that's the context that I need to go back and re-examine my Quaintance homework because I knew he had gotten hurt, but I didn't equate the numbers that they were giving us in terms of his free throw with how kind of to view what type of prospect I think he is. Because if you're shooting 40% from the free throw line, I just assume it's a hacker you situation, and you ain't gonna be able to be on the floor very much until you get better at that. I don't care how great you are, I can just play you off the floor that way. But if that's just a small sample size and he just had a bad game and then got hurt after that, then I shouldn't be thinking that that free throw percentage is his sample size to expect. He isn't the worst free throw shooter in the world. He just didn't shoot very well in the games leading up to his injury. Now that can be taken as him not being a good free throw shooter, but maybe not 40% bad, like I was equating it to. So I have to go back and look at Quaintance differently, but what I can say is, based on what he does, I think he's the type of center the Lakers probably should be bringing in. Lob threat, shot blocker, uber athletic, great touch around the rim, can pass a little bit. Not bringing him in for his offensive stuff, but he's not an offensive deficient player either. All-star upside, strong, tough, toolsy, multi-layered positional center who can shoot a little bit, shoot the three a little bit. Not a horrible three-point shooter. If I'm equating things correctly, Quaintance is not the worst three-point shooter in the draft. So, yeah. Trading up to 14 or something like that, getting the Thunder's first-round pick, giving them 25 probably makes a lot of sense if we can swindle something like that so that we can secure the player that's probably best for us. Because if we stay in the 25 range, I don't think the Lakers are going to be able to get who they need, man. If we stay in that 25 range, I think it's a damn good chance the Lakers are going to walk away with the rest of whatever people don't like, whatever's in the draft range that people don't like. That's what you're gonna be left with, and that's unnecessary when you consider how bad that worked out for us when we did it with Dalton Knecht. I just don't want to go down that path again, to be honest with you. I really don't. And so when you talk about where the Lakers are headed, I legitimately think that moving up or moving down to get multiple second rounders so that we can secure multiple centers, multiple bigs, or a Brazil and a Reed or something like that. For example, guys like that, maybe guys that are wingy, tall, 6'10" guys or 7'1" guy. Give me a Flory, whatever his last name is, the African dude, and then pair him up with I don't know, just somebody who can play that position at the 4 spot. I think the Lakers would be happy if we could walk away like that. Getting 2 second rounders for our first may give us some really good prospects, because I'd be damned if I take Evans or bring myself a piece that I can't use and then walk away from my draft thinking that one piece is enough to have won. We're going to have to find free agents opportunities to fix some of these problems, and I just don't trust that we're going to be able to do that. So if we can't secure one of our most major problems, or a multitude of problems in this draft. We may go into this season with holes in our roster that we do not want. You know what I'm saying? That's really what I'm saying to you all. So I don't think I'm staying at 25. Essentially where I'm at right now. 43 days before the draft starts. If I'm the Lakers, I'm probably not staying at 25. I'm moving up, or I'm moving back. But staying at 25, the stuff that's in that range, in theory, you might walk away with a Koa Pete if he falls to you. You know, you can definitely probably get him a Malik Thomas, or you can reach back. Maybe Henry Vesar. I think Vesar is likely to be off the board. If you're in love with Vesar, you may want to move up to 20 to get him, because I got a feeling Philly, Atlanta, or New York, one of those three teams could use Vesar. One of those three teams could use Vesar. Now, they may be lucky enough to get them somebody like a Cameron Carr who falls to them, keeping them from taking Vesar, but I wouldn't count on that. Out of the three chances that you have in theory with those three teams ahead of you, I wouldn't count on it. If you love Vesar, move up to get him. I don't personally love Vesar because I don't think he answers the question at center that I need. He fits the team, but I still better find a center big enough to guard these Jokic's and Wemby's and all that. Like, he ain't gonna do that. He's a good team defender, but he's terrible in the paint against bigger bodies. That's one of his deficiencies. So if I'm bringing him to my team with the intention of fixing my center position, he can play the center. But we still gonna be getting ate up in the paint. Ate up. So, yeah, this is a situation where that's not the solution. If you just bring me Vesar at 25 and call it a draft, we fail. We're going to still have major holes that we need to fill. So, I think the Lakers would be wise, trade out of 25, move up to get a piece that fills a need for certain, or move down to get multiple pieces that potentially fill needs. And hope to God that JJ will play these rooks, man. Hope to God that, especially in the second round when most of these guys are seniors, he should be willing to play these guys. You know what I mean? He should be. And if he's not, then you can fill the holes anyway, and you're still not going to have the holes filled, if that makes any sense. But we can count on our rookie from last year playing a bigger role this year. The athlete, you can count on that. I want to start, and this is going to sound strange, but when you talk about building depth, you start having a specific vision for potential second units. I don't know how you view it. Maybe some people say, okay, I need my point guard, my shooting guard. Maybe you view it like positional lists. Maybe you say, okay, I have a combination of my starters and then some high-level second unit guys. I don't know how you view it, but that's how I'm building, with depth in mind, having visions for different rotations, bringing pieces that can fit multiple bench rotations. That kind of is how I want to group, how I would want to approach my offseason if I'm the Lakers. Not necessarily thinking, okay, well, let me just get this starting guy and then get that starting guy. But more so saying, okay, we need depth. How good can we make our 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th guy? How versatile can we make those pieces? And how well can they fit with one another? And how well can they fill in for other people? That should be kind of how we approach this, in my opinion. And if we can bring ourselves cohesive second unit pieces, we can get away with not making too many changes to our starting lineup and be a much better basketball team than we were last season. Because at the end of the day, it's about depth, and it's about finding myself not necessarily under the superstar per se, but more so finding the pieces that are going to fit next to Luka and Austin, since we're not moving Austin. I'm not going to push any further on the moving Austin for Giannis thing. I'm not. I said I think we should do it. Luka said we shouldn't. I'm rolling with Luka. Period. If anybody wonder what BDF 44 is saying, Luka saying no, I'm with Luka. I don't want Luka to be unhappy here. I don't want to move Luka. I was listening to the people on the arena, Gilda's Arena this morning. They were talking about moving Luka for Jason Tatum. I ain't doing no stupid stuff like that. I'm rolling with Luka. I'm putting my money on Luka. As a Laker fan, I believe in his talent, and I'm digging the personality of the guy. I dig Luka. I'm not going to put him through no more trades in his career. I personally am putting my money on Luka Doncic, and whatever his deficiencies are, we will work around those. Whatever he needs to build his team, I'm betting on that. I believe we can win a championship with that guy. I believe we can win multiple championships with that guy. I think he can be the next MVP that puts on a Laker uniform. And we haven't had one of those in quite a while. So me, I'm not trading him for anybody. I'm not moving him thinking that, solutions are found when we just kind of build around somebody else, Austin and LeBron. That's not how I'm looking at this. If Luka ain't a part of it, we're doing it wrong, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I listened to Brandon Jennings this morning. I understand what he's saying. Luka dribbles too much. Bringing in a guy like Jason Tatum bring us more balance and defense. It'll be easier to build around Jason Tatum than Luka. I respect that. Jason Tatum loves the Lakers. He loves Kobe, whatever. All of that is awesome. Jason Tatum's MVP candidate, great player. The Achilles injury is kind of keeping me from really messing with Jason Tatum going forward. I just would not bet on that. Luka ain't never had no Achilles injuries. And if you're asking me who I think is a better player between Luka and Jason Tatum, my money's on Luka Doncic. I do think it's easier to build around a team with LeBron, Tatum, and Austin, because you don't have to worry about the athletic deficiencies or the defensive deficiencies that Luka maybe provides. But I also think that Luka's the better player between the two of them, and likely to be somebody that's going to play more games going forward, assuming Luka takes care of his conditioning going forward. Jason Tatum with the Achilles, I'm not counting on that. I understand we've come a long way with Achilles injuries, but we ain't gone as far as to me saying I'm moving on from a guy that doesn't have that problem for a guy who does. If Jason Tatum wants to be here instead of Austin Reeves, I think that's a conversation. But if you're the Celtics, are you doing that? Of course not. Of course not. But if you ask me if I trade Jason Tatum for Austin Reeves for Jason Tatum, I would make that trade today. That wouldn't be too difficult. That wouldn't be too difficult at all. But I don't, with all due respect to Austin, I don't think he's worth Jason Tatum. I don't think so. Not in today's market, no. Not after what we just saw, no. Austin Reeves is not going to get you Jason Tatum in a sign and trade, no. But, at the end of the day, man, it's about Luka for me, man. Honestly, it's about Luka Doncic and how we can build around it. Now, I will say this, and Gil's Arena guys alluded to this, and I'm the mindset is exactly this. If we're building thinking that we're going to duplicate the Dallas Mavericks Luka team, with respects to that team, they would not have beat this Oklahoma team. They'd have been out here in 6 with that Oklahoma team. They'd have been gone. They might have won a game or 2, but they would have been gone. You got to build something better than that. And trying to give him his old Dallas team, that team was built for him, and it fit him, but did it give him the best chance to beat what's in front of us? No. No, he couldn't beat that Boston Celtics team with that unit, and he wouldn't beat these Thunder with that unit. I'm just going to be the bad guy and tell y'all, if y'all building, trying to duplicate what Dallas had, you're not going to be good enough. They weren't good enough to beat this team in front of us. I'm just being honest. Y'all better build with a bit more athleticism in mind. The shot blocking idea, hell yeah. Bring your Derek Lively and Daniel Gaffords to you. Yes, you need those pieces for sure. Kyrie Irving is awesome in any situation, in my opinion. Kyrie's one of the great human beings in sports. So I would bring him to my team even if he wasn't as great as he is. Just off the strength of, I think it's good juju having a guy like Kyrie around personally. But that's a whole nother story. He brought something to the table that I think, is awesome. And yeah, I like the idea of having that piece. But when you start talking about the bench players and different things that they had, they need more. You need more athletes than what they had on that team. You need 2 or 3 Derrick Joneses, to be honest with you. And they got to be better shooters than Derrick Jones. So, for me, I would want us to kind of take some of the template of what Luka had in Dallas. But if we're looking to literally bring us one of each of the prototypes of those players, give me the next bring me the next Kyrie, bring me the next this guy or whoever they had on the team. I promise you, you're going to take that stuff out there. You're going to win about 55 games. And you're going to be out of here in the second round of the same damn Thunder. You got to build something better than that. And I think we need to be a bit more creative than to just build what Luka had. Respectfully, we got to be more creative than that. And if we can't be more creative than that, I don't think we're going to be good enough to defeat the best team in the league. And that's all this is ever going to be about for us. So that's what I want to say. It's a lot of talk about, we're going to recreate the Dallas team. That's cool. In some of the aspects, it's stuff that fits Luka no matter what. But if you're going to literally try to template each and every role player after what they had, that's just not going to get it done. Not going to get it done. So that's what I want to say. And I would ask Luka, man, is there a world where you be very pleased with us not making it to the finals every year? Because you being on this hill where you're not willing to move Austin Reaves may leave you in that space. I'm just being real. I'm not willing to do anything that's going to make you unhappy, nor am I so on board with Giannis as a bet to stay healthy that I'm doing anything to anger you further by making that trade. That's one of many reasons why I wouldn't make this trade, because I'm not a snake to tell Luka I'm going to do something and not do it, or vice versa. But I also don't trust Giannis to stay healthy to even make that something that I'm willing to do. Now, if this was Wemby and you told me not to trade Austin Reaves for Wemby, I'm going to smile in your face. I'm going to tell you, okay, and then I'm going to make that damn trade. But I don't think Giannis at this point in his career, at 30 years of old, with all the injury issues that he's had in the playoffs, just like Austin, injured every time the playoffs come around, I don't think it's a very smart idea to trade away a guy who's younger than Giannis, who has the same problem as Giannis. That's stupid to me. And that's really what it comes down to. Is there a world where Giannis is a better player to have than Austin Reaves? Most of the worlds you're in, that's the case. But the reality is neither one of them are a good bet to be healthy when you need them the most. And that is why I'm not all the way gung-ho crazy about us moving heaven and earth for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Because I think he could just be one more guy in street clothes when we're trying to play a damn series against the damn Thunder. So while I said we should do our due diligence, I also said I didn't expect that we'd be able to outbid other teams. And one of the reasons why that is because I'm not willing to give up every damn thing. I just don't expect him to stay healthy, and I think the evidence has shown me that I have every reason to believe that. He's just not a great bet to stay healthy, y'all. I love Giannis to death. But yeah, I'm not about to just anger Luka in a situation like this. It's just so I could bring myself somebody like that. Nope. Like him. Not that much. Not even close to that much. So that's what it is, man. I think Austin's gonna be on this team next year, but the Lakers, I think the ceiling is cut off at maybe second round until we find ourselves some athleticism at the 3 spot and the 5 spot that is of the all-star caliber level, because that's what I think is going to be required. This is why I want this Quaintance kid, because I think Quaintance is fast enough, quick enough on an all-star level when he's healthy to be able to check off one of them boxes. He is so fast around the perimeter, from the baseline to the paint. He is one of the fastest players at his position, at his size. Right? He is just next level floor covering guy. He can cover so much space, it's not even funny. And so with that being said, yeah, I want that player because I think he can help us in a lot of areas. Hey, buddy, what's up? And if we can get that player, then we can also have him on a rookie contract to make it more affordable for us to be able to bring ourselves the super 3 that maybe we'll have to find in trade or free agency. But if we have to get both of those players, I'm afraid we will have to deplenish some of our depth. So the wise move, in my opinion, is to make sure that you have one of those players on a rookie contract. That's why I'm so gung-ho about the Lakers potentially moving up. It's just cost effective. If you can find your starting center, play at a high enough level in this starting lineup that you don't have to pay $50 million for another 3-4 years, that, my friends, is how you find victory in this league. That's how you do it. That's exactly how you do it. And so, yeah, I'm a strong proponent of moving up into this draft with the intention of finding that starting lineup center that can guard multiple positions, who can switch, which is extremely important in JJ's defensive mentality, his system, because he wants to switch everything all the time. So if you're going to bring us a drop coverage center, you could potentially bring JJ something that doesn't fit the style he wants to play, which is why Amara, for example, may not be the best piece for us because he's a drop coverage center. I more so need, again, Quaintance, because he can switch everything. So like this is why I'm like, yo, the Lakers, they probably should really seriously be trying to target moving up in this draft with the intention of taking that specific player, man. They really should. They really, really should. And because I think some of the stuff with him, like he didn't even do any of the measurement stuff, from what I understand. And I think it's because he's probably not 100% healthy yet. So that means that you may be able to actually get him at 25, as to which if he was available at 25, which you actually don't know if you move up to get him. But if he would have been available at 25, you'd wish you didn't move anything to get him sooner. I think that there's a world where if the doctor stuff doesn't come back right, we don't have to move out of our spot at all. He'll still fall right to us. And there's also a world where if you don't get him, a guy like Reed would be really good for you in that same regard. The guy out of St. John's, Ejiofor, is an undersized version of that. He's like another version of Morez Johnson. That piece will be great, but you kind of still need a center, man. But I do think that piece will be excellent. But the problem is with that piece is that you kind of already have that with the guy you drafted last year. The athlete that we drafted last year, whose name, for whatever reason, ain't coming to my head. You know how I am. But, like, there's a world where you bring that piece to you anyway. I don't care if they're both undersized. They're going to be so strong and be able to guard so many different wings and be so deadly in the fast break and such fantastic lob threats and moving around so fast on the perimeter to where you'll find a center elsewhere. It won't be a need for you to get such a high-level center because you have such fantastic forwards doing all of that stuff for you in multiple lineups. And so it's like, okay, the emphasis for you to get a higher quality center doesn't become as necessary if you get your Morez Johnson, get you a Ejiofor. You know what I mean? As to where if you don't have that piece, you need your center to be of a higher quality. So, like, these are things that I'm just thinking about. I need my front court to get better. I respect that we already have that piece, but I need multiple of those. I need to be able to have that player in every rotation. That's just what I want to say. That high-flying athlete, that speed demon at 240, 220 to 250, that player needs to be on the floor at all times. LeBron and his backups. You know what I'm saying? I need as much of that as possible. I believe in strength. I believe in speed. I believe in pressure on the rim. I believe in shot blocking, offensive rebounding, energy, motor. I need that piece up and down the roster, man. Up and down the roster. So that when I move forward with Austin and Luka, they'll never be at a severe athletic and energy disadvantage against anyone because you'll constantly have multiple of those players coming in and out of the lineup around them. Then I could bring myself in Evans or something like that. Then I got a Luke Kennard. You know what I'm saying? And the shooting will make sense that way. Then you could bring in your Nick Smith and your Bronny James for ball handling a little more. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Because you'll have those pieces roaming around, being somewhat free safeties, bigger than everybody else, quicker to the ball than everybody else. Then you're not hurt so much by the deficiencies of a Jake LaRavia. You can bring him back and you don't have to rely on him as much because you have other players doing the things he does. If he sucks, you just sit him or trade him. So it's like, these are the things that I think the Lakers need to be thinking about, because if they put these players that I'm considering, this template around Luka, even if LeBron goes down at an injury of 42 years old, you still have him in different players as it pertains to the athleticism, the pressure, the speed. That is something you don't have to live without. And then you don't have to ask him to do that stuff as much. So in theory, you should be able to keep him healthier. So that's why I really am on the Morez Johnson train, the Quaintance train, the Ejiofor train, the Reed train. I respect that Avesar is probably what most people are thinking about, but you need size, you need strength, man. You know, Yaxel, obviously Yaxel's going to be long gone off the board, but like if I could have that player, that would be ideal. These are the type of players that I think are going to be very important for the Lakers. If you're going to go forward with Austin and Luka, you got to have some real strength in at your forward and center position, and your wing positions got to be really fluid as well, man. Really, really fluid wing positions. So, and I don't think we can address the wing thing right now. Not within reason. Maybe you luck out and get Tari Eason or something like that, but that's about as good as it's going to get. They just don't, you know, we read off the free agency list last night. I didn't see too many wings that look reasonable that we could actually get. But that 240 athlete that can potentially play the wing, yeah, we could find that dude about 3 or 4 different times in the draft. Up and down the second round. And some the end of the first. And mid first. You know, they got these guys in this draft. So that's what I wanted to say, man. It's just a bunch of stuff going through my head. And I just don't want the Lakers to bring themselves the wrong piece. Yeah, you'll have spacing. You'll be able to stretch the floor with a stretch 5. That can be wonderful with a vase. So I like that idea of having that piece. But if you don't have those bigs, and you don't have that athleticism and that motor in place and that energy, you're going to lose certain games that, you know, without those things, you just ain't going to be able to win some of the games against the bigger teams, these more athletic teams. And I think that's what's really coming at this team in the playoffs. So that's pretty much what I got to say. My name is BDO44. I thank y'all for watching.